Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going through my top 5 Instant Pot dinner recipes. These are some of my favorite dairy-free and gluten-free recipes that I have been making for a long time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right into dinner number 1, which is going to be Instant Pot lasagna. Okay, so this recipe is very simple and it only requires a few things. So you need 1 onion, some minced garlic. I normally just get the kind out of the jar. And then you'll need 1 5-ounce container of spinach. And then I eat gluten-free. Like I said, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free. So this is the Jovial gluten-free lasagna. And then you'll just need 1 25-ounce can of marinara sauce. And then a pound of ground beef. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're going to go ahead and turn your Instant Pot to the saute mode. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the ground beef in there and get it browning. You also wanna spray the bottom of the Instant Pot with some like nonstick spray before you put the meat in there. And then I'm going to chop up the onion. And once the onion is chopped, I'm just gonna add it in there with the beef. And then we're also gonna add in the spinach. So we're gonna brown the beef first and then add in the onion, garlic, and spinach. So there's still a little bit of pink in the ground beef. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add in the onions, garlic, and the spinach. So we use 1 whole onion and then 2 tablespoons of the minced garlic. All right, so we're gonna mix that in. I'm going to wash my spinach and then we're gonna add that in. Okay, while I wait for the spinach to wilt down and for that all to cook, I am going to go ahead and basically start breaking apart these lasagna noodles because obviously the Instant Pot, you can't like actually lay them flat like a typical lasagna. So what I do is I just literally break them apart, honestly haphazardly. So I'll just like snap them. You can leave big pieces like this. I personally like this size, but just in general, like sometimes you'll break them and then they break into smaller pieces or whatever. So I'm just gonna go ahead and break these apart. Okay, so after the spinach is wilted, I'm gonna hit cancel. And then what I'm gonna do is add a cup of water. By the way, I am going to link all the recipes. Also, new thing, I have started a new Instagram page called Be Well Nutrition. And that's where I have like all my recipes and I share a lot more educational information there. So if you want to follow me on Instagram on my nutrition page, then have at it. I also post in stories every day and I will have all the recipes linked in my highlights on my Instagram page. Okay, so I did a cup of water and then I poured in this whole jar of marinara sauce. So then I'm just gonna stir the sauce in there as well. All right, and then I'm gonna add in the noodles. All right, so then I just kind of flatten out the noodles and I press them down a little bit, but I don't mix them. So you do kind of want them sitting right up top. And then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water on top of the noodles. We got 1.5. All right, so I try to kind of submerge the noodles if I can in some water. But truthfully, the nice thing about Instant Pots is they do steam up. So even though like this one right here isn't like fully in the water, it will still get soft and will be totally fine. So something like that is what you kind of want it to look like, somewhat in the water, but they don't all have to be like fully submerged. Okay, so now that everything's in there, I'm going to set the timer for 4 minutes. So you do pressure cook, and then I'm gonna set it to 4 minutes. It's gonna cook in there for 4 minutes. Make sure that your little valve is set to sealed or sealing. Okay, so this has got to heat up and then it's gonna cook for 4 minutes. And then once it's done cooking for the 4 minutes, you do a quick release and then let that go down and then we'll eat. So I'll show you the final product when it's done. Okay, so recipe number 2 is going to be my Instant Pot loaded baked potato soup. So I've made this recipe once before in another video, but I have tweaked it slightly. But what you're gonna need is 5 to 6 russet potatoes, and then you'll need some chicken broth, half an onion, some minced garlic, and avocado oil. I like using avocado oil, but you could also do olive oil if you wanted. And then for toppings, I like to use bacon and some green onion. So that's all you need for this. And the last time I made it, I used to put like a thing of dairy-free sour cream in it, but in efforts to make this an even cleaner dish, I took that out and just added more potatoes to make it thick and creamy. And truthfully, the recipe that I used to go off of said 5 or 6 russet potatoes, but honestly, I don't really use potatoes for anything else. So what I've started doing is honestly just using all the potatoes I have and making just a bigger batch of it. I'll show you what to do, but it's really just adding more liquid. So adding a little bit more water or chicken broth in the Instant Pot. Because yeah, I will probably slice all of these and just make a bigger batch. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this. This one takes a little bit of prep work because I will go ahead and start getting the bacon cooking in the oven. And then I have to wash and peel all the potatoes, chop up all the potatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start all the prep work. Okay, so I have chopped everything up, and then I've got the avocado oil, the onions, and the garlic in the Instant Pot. They're gonna saute first. And then once they're translucent, they've cooked for about 2 to 3 minutes, then I'm gonna add in the chopped up potatoes, and then you're gonna add 4 cups of chicken broth. Okay, so what is in here right now is a full 5-pound bag of russet potatoes. And then this is the original 4 cups of liquid. So this actually looks pretty good to me as far as how much liquid is kind of coming up to the top. Sometimes I feel like depending on the size of potatoes you get, the liquid's a lot lower, but this looks good. Just to be careful, I might add another like half a cup of liquid. So we're gonna go ahead and cook this for 8 minutes, and then I'll check back in. The soup is finished cooking, and I just did the quick release, so that's finishing up. Now, the last time I made this on YouTube, I think I cup by cup poured it into my food processor and blended it up this way. But since then, now I have an immersion blender. So I'm just gonna turn this on, and then we're gonna blend up all the potatoes. So this makes a pretty thick mixture. If you wanted, a thinner soup, then add more liquid. You can also blend this to, like, if you want to have chunks of potatoes, then you can kind of keep some chunks in there, or if you want to blend it really fine. So I'm gonna add some salt and pepper in here, and then other than that, it's just your toppings. All right, and there you have it. So I just do the green onions and bacon because I don't have dairy, but you can definitely load this up with sour cream and cheese because it is called a loaded baked potato soup, so you can definitely add more into this, but I just eat it like this and it's so good. Again, I just added a little bit of salt and pepper to the actual potato soup, and then just finish it off with toppings and enjoy. For my third Instant Pot dinner, we're going to be doing Instant Pot white chicken chili. So I've only made this one other time from a Pinterest recipe, but it was really, really good. And so I'm gonna make it again. So all you need for this is some boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and then an onion, a whole onion, some minced garlic, 2 cans of like northern white beans, a can of corn, and then an 8-ounce can of green chilies. And then you also need some lime juice, some chicken broth, and then some avocado oil, or you could probably just replace this with olive oil. And then besides that, it's just a bunch of seasonings. So to start this recipe off, it says to cook the chicken in the Instant Pot first, and then we'll shred it and then add everything else in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cooking the chicken. The chicken is in the Instant Pot, and while that has been cooking, I've just basically been prepping everything else. So I prepped the onion, so the full onion is chopped up, and then I went ahead and also drained and rinsed the 2 cans of beans and the can of corn. And then I went ahead and put all the seasonings, just mixed it all together, just to save time later. So like right when the chicken's done, I can just go ahead and dump everything in. So I've added everything to the Instant Pot, and there's a few things I did a little bit differently. So the recipe calls for 5 cloves of minced garlic, and I just had the little canned minced garlic. So I did a tablespoon, and then it also says half a lime juiced. And so I just did a tablespoon of lime juice because I didn't have an actual lime. And then I think it calls for 2 cups or 16 ounces of chicken broth. So I did that. And then I added like an extra half a cup of water just to give it a little bit more liquid. But again, you don't have to do that. I remember I followed this recipe like to a T the first time I made it. And this recipe also calls for dairy-free cream cheese. Or just regular cream cheese, but I don't do that either. I don't even put in a dairy-free one. I just eat it like this, so I don't put in any kind of cream cheese, real or dairy-free. And again, I did this the last time I made it, and it was so good. So everything's in the Instant Pot now, so it's just going to re-cook for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna do a quick release on it, and then it'll be done. Okay, so for our 4th Instant Pot dinner recipe, we are going to be doing a very, very simple one, and it's essentially just chicken and potatoes in the Instant Pot. So I'm going to half this recipe, and again, this is just one that I found on Pinterest, and I'm just gonna tweak it a little bit. So it calls for 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I've got 2, so again, I'm kind of halving this recipe. And then it calls for 2 pounds of baby red or baby gold potatoes. So I'm just doing 1 pound of gold potatoes. And then other than that, I'm just gonna stick to the recipe as far as seasonings go. You also need chicken broth, and then some olive oil, and then different seasonings. So this one is, again, very, very basic: chicken, potato, seasonings, olive oil, chicken broth. And this one is kind of like my last one. So this is just a recipe I found off of Pinterest, and then I just tweak it a little bit. So this one calls for ranch seasoning, and normally ranch seasoning is dairy, like it's got whey in it normally, so I'm not using that. And then it also calls for grated Parmesan cheese, and I'm taking that out too. And I've made this recipe a few other times without the dairy, and it's still just as good, you know, it's just as easy. And again, it's just a simple one, especially if you're gluten-free, dairy-free. It's just easy. It's kind of mindless, like you can just put it in the Instant Pot, and I love these kind of dinners. And there are 2 other times that I've made this where I actually added green beans into the dish, and kind of cooked all of them together. The only thing is that, like, it's kind of essentially, you know, you're steaming the green beans. So they were very, very soft and they were still good. But I think I personally like crunchier green beans. So I'm gonna just make green beans on the side, which you could do too, because it's just nice that like your chicken and potatoes are like quickly cooked. It's done. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have rinsed off the potatoes and now it just tells me to toss them in the olive oil and the seasonings. So it calls for 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and then it calls for some salt, pepper, garlic powder, oregano, and thyme. And then it says a teaspoon of thyme, half a teaspoon of basil, teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this. With seasonings, especially with stuff like this, it's very forgiving. So obviously if you're someone who's not super comfortable with cooking yet, then go straight off the recipe, you know, measure it all out. That's totally fine. And just again, personal preference, it does not call for garlic salt, but I really like garlic salt with this recipe. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some garlic salt on it as well. And then it doesn't call for onion powder either, but again, this is just a go-to seasoning of mine. I feel like if you're a beginner, garlic powder, onion powder, some garlic salt, you know, salt, pepper, any of those I feel like are very forgiving. Can't really go wrong. So I'm gonna just mix all this up and then it's gonna go in the Instant Pot. Y'all, this one is literally that simple. So you're going to cook the chicken and potatoes in there for 10 to 15 minutes. All we're gonna do is just quick release this once the time is up and it's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some green beans, but this is it for recipe number 4. All right, so for our 5th and final Instant Pot dinner, we are going to be making a dinner that is used very often around here and eaten often around here, and that is the chicken Instant Pot burrito bowls. So this one's extremely simple. All you need is a pound of chicken breast, some chicken broth. You can either do 2 cans of beans or you can do 1 can of black beans and 1 can of corn. It's up to you. Today I'm gonna do 2 cans of black beans because that's what I had. And then I'm going to do 1 jar of salsa. This is a 15-ounce jar, so that's usually what I put in this one. You need a packet of taco seasoning, and then you'll need rice. So this recipe is extremely simple. All I'm gonna do is spray the bottom of my Instant Pot with some nonstick spray, and then I'm going to add, I believe it's a cup of chicken broth to the bottom of the Instant Pot. I'm gonna lay my chicken down, and then I'm gonna sprinkle the chicken with your taco seasoning, and then you just kind of layer the rest of the ingredients. So I'm gonna drain and rinse the beans. So then I'm gonna put beans on top of the chicken, and then you're gonna do salsa, and then rice goes in last, and then you top it off, I think, with a little bit more chicken broth. I can't remember the exact measurement off the top of my head, but that's it. It's like you just kind of stack everything, layer it all in there, and then you're cooking it. So let's get started. For a second there, I almost forgot my own step and I forgot to put my chicken broth down before I put the chicken in, but all is well. So this is going to cook in the Instant Pot for 8 minutes. And then once the 8 minutes is up, we're gonna let the pressure release naturally for 12 minutes. So we're not gonna do a quick release. So it cooks for 8, natural release for 12. And then what we're gonna do is shred the chicken once it's done, and then that's it. So we'll shred it, kind of mix it all up in there together, and then that's it. If you are someone who's dairy free, just double check the ingredients on your taco seasoning mix because sometimes that does have dairy. If you're someone who eats dairy, then you can definitely top this with cheese and sour cream. If you're someone who does not eat dairy like myself, then I normally just eat this plain, but you could totally load it up with more salsa, you know, some like sliced avocado, cilantro, some lime juice. You know, you could spice this up easily. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, adding some lime juice sounds really good to me. I love lime. So keep that in mind. You can kind of do toppings however you want, but this is the base of dinner number 5. And it's so good, so easy, so quick. But this is one of Ryan and I's favorite. I've been making this one for the past few years now. It's definitely always in our routine of dinner, so I hope you liked it too. I also hope you liked this whole video. I hope you got some good recipe ideas out of it. Be sure to check the description box for where all the recipes are. They will either be linked to my new Instagram account at bewellnutrition_, or I'll find another way to link all the recipes in the description, so definitely be sure to check out that for all the recipes. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or if you are going to try any of these recipes. If it was helpful, anything like that, please give this video a thumbs up. That really helps my channel grow and supports me. So be sure to like this video and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.